Welcome to Body Hack and Build a Better You, the podcast where we unlock the secret to living a longer, healthier life and create a bloom zone in our life and within our family. I'm your host, Michaela Morell, and I'm here to provide you with the tools and knowledge to empower you to build a better you, one essential building block at a time. In today's episode, we'll hear from Katie, a mom of 3, who will share her personal health journey. Despite not even being 40, Katie was already scared of what aging might bring. She faced a range of health challenges, from recurring yeast infections that made even a glass of wine off limits to nearly monthly UTIs that left her trapped in the frustration cycles for years. She also shares her battle with Epstein-Barr virus and the increasing fatigue that came with it. Katie's health was affected negatively due to all of the antibiotics. Instead of helping, worsened her condition long term, leaving her stuck in a downward spiral. This episode dives deep into Katie's experience and the broader topic of gut health, exploring how she began to break free from this cycle and reclaim her well-being. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and if you do, please leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow. Thanks for tuning in. I also want to remind you that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Read the disclaimer in the show notes, and I remind you to always consult your healthcare provider if you plan to make any dietary changes. Let's dive in. Welcome to Body Hack and Build a Better You. And Katie's back to share a little bit more, because in the prior episode, we were talking about her son. And now we will also want to hear, because of course, being a mom and seeing how her son is responding very, very positively to what we're doing. Of course, Katie also is like, hey, can you also help me a little bit? So of course, I've helped Katie. I've also helped her husband. And Katie, we want to hear your story too, because I know that you have not been always feeling the greatest either. So what were you struggling with? And yeah, let's start there.
Oh, I'm so excited to be back. I shared in another episode about my son's journey and just like how transformational it was. And so once he had that, I knew like this is something I have to work on as well. And it was interesting because as my son was getting better, I went through a ton of issues myself. I will say, like, I I knew that my health was struggling because my energy levels were low. And I think a lot of times when we become moms, people are like, "Oh yeah, that's common." But like this was pretty rough. Um and I was noticing like my lymph nodes were swelling, and even like my thyroid. And by the way, okay, so your thyroid is the butterfly gland in your throat. This is what I teach my kids. Like I could feel it. And some of my friends were telling me, like, your neck looks swollen. And they did this out of love. And I was like, I have to figure this all out. And I'm someone who was born in the 80s, had tons of ear infections and tons of strep throat as a child. So I felt like a guinea pig for antibiotics. And even though I seemingly had good gut health, when you have round after round of antibiotics, that really messes things up. Do you want to say anything about that?
So yes, I can say something about that. And here is something that a lot of people don't understand, is that you do not have to have the typical symptoms of constipation, diarrhea, or being bloated to have problems with leaky gut. There are so many other symptoms of having leaky gut. For example, headaches, migraines, vitamin D deficiency, or iron, or B12, or that you're always feeling sleepy after you eat a meal, or if you're struggling with weight gain, either like not gaining at all or gaining too much. There are so many different symptoms, and also autoimmune disease. Then I for sure know you're struggling with leaky gut if you have an autoimmune disease. So the reason why it's so hard to build up your gut microbiome after you have had a round of antibiotics is that you're simply just killing off all the bacteria, both good and bad gut bacteria. And the biggest problem today is that we're usually feeding our bad gut bacteria just a little bit more than our good gut bacteria. And even if we feel like we're eating whole foods or we're eating food that is pretty clean, that piece of bread is feeding the bad gut bacteria. That glass of wine is feeding the gut bacteria. That little piece of chocolate, ice cream, that pasta bowl you just had, even if it was lots of veggies and protein in it, the pasta is feeding the bad bacteria. And all the additives and everything, your Starbucks drink, like everything is feeding our bad gut bacteria. So it doesn't really matter if you have a good salad for lunch and a healthy meal with lots of meat and potatoes in the evening. Like there's so much we're eating usually that is feeding the bad gut bacteria. So it's so hard. It's so hard to help our good gut bacteria to thrive. And because the bad gut bacteria is so prevalent, I can't even say it in English, but it takes up so much space that they're pushing away the good gut bacteria. So we need to come to a place where we have been feeding our good gut bacteria so much that they become strong enough to start pushing away the bad gut bacteria. And that's where people are struggling. It's very hard to do with your diet. A lot of the times we need other interventions as well.
Great insights. And that showed up for me because of course, I had all those years of antibiotics. And then if I had a glass of wine, like I would either get a yeast infection, or if I had a Starbucks coffee, I was getting like a UTI the next day. And then on top of that, um, like so much of my hair was still falling out. And I wanted to like see the results that my son had. And so I knew, like, just like there was hope for him, that there was hope for me too. The thing about being an adult is for every year that we're struggling with these issues, it's like about a month of recovery. So if I've been struggling with this for 20 years, like that's almost 2 years of recovery. And so I had to learn to like be patient, but also hold on to like all the small victories along the way. So something that was really a big deal for me, and it's something that 95% of people on this earth get, which is Epstein-Barr virus. But my body was like locking onto it, holding on for dear life, and like I'm not letting it go. So that was why my lymph nodes were having issues and my thyroid was swelling. And then like it kind of attracts all the other viruses and bacteria too. They become friends and they all gang up on your body. And you're like, what the heck is happening to me? So it was definitely a process. Like I started working on my gut health, which I loved kombucha. So I mean, I was still getting good gut bacteria, but not enough of it. I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, I just need some probiotics. I'm going to be good. Let me tell you, probiotics is just like step uh, A, and prebiotics are step B. And that's where like the magic happened in my gut. And I started to have really, really good healing that way. Um, and I wish I could say that like my throat felt better as fast as my son felt better, but like it was like 9 months of just being consistent, taking my omega oil, taking an immune supplement, taking a prebiotic, and just being really committed to just being healthy. There was even 3 months that I went gluten, dairy, and sugar free. And even though I required that of my son, it was so much harder for me to do. But I was so determined to get better. And in the process too, I got a UTI. This was right before I started the protocol. And they put me on a black box antibiotic. And if you haven't heard of what that is where like an antibiotic that you should only use in a life or death situation, not for a UTI. And so this was terrible that it was recommended to me. And I noticed about 3 months after being on it, like I I was in bed for months, guys. Like just constantly. Because once all those cells changed, like my body, it was not the same. And when you're not even 40 yet and feeling like this is how it feels. Like, how am I going to be when I'm like 60 or 70? So I really did cling on to like seeing my son's results and also Michaela's. Like, you guys, I see her as this like superstar athletic pickleball champion all the time, but she could barely get out of bed as a mom back in the day. And so I was like, and she has the most beautiful skin and the most energy. I travel with her, guys. Like, she is the Energizer Bunny. So I knew there was something to this. So I stuck on it. And so I've been on the protocol for 18 months now. And for the first summer in a long time, summers are really hard for me in the desert because we're stuck inside with AC. And I'm not like out walking every day like I love to. When I wake up, it's 90 degrees. It's gross. But like, this is the best I've felt in the summer in a long time. And like, I'm so excited for this fall. I'm just, I'm feeling so grateful because I have lots of things as a mom I have to do. And as someone who works from home and homeschools, and usually I just kind of have to let those things go. But for the first time in my life, I have opportunities coming up and I'm saying yes to all of them. And I'm so excited.
I am so excited for you too, Katie, because when I first met you too, we would try to schedule in things and days to hang, and every now and then it would be like, no, I already have one event planned that day, and I will be toasted after that. And I was like, wow, okay, if you need to rest, you can rest. I did not really have compassion for that. I'm like, come and hang with me instead. Mm, but yeah, I mean, I see your energy levels have also started increasing a lot. And I see that you're also like running around more, you're doing more, you're feeling. But I also wanted to tell you guys that yes, for adults, it takes longer time to respond to what we're doing. I mean, kids' bodies are just they're so good at recovering when we are giving them what they need. Their cells are changing out faster than adults, and we usually just see the effect faster with kids. And I'm happy that you kept on sticking with it. Of course, it was easier for you when you had seen your child, but a lot of people might give up on like 8 months into your journey, and you stack it out, and now you are seeing all of these benefits, and it's lovely because I also know that you struggled a lot with UVIs before. It was not only like once every 3 years. How how much did you struggle, Katie?
I mean, before I discovered like D-Manos, I had to worry about that like monthly there, and that that is a terrible thing to struggle with, guys.
Yes, terrible thing. And of course, the doctor's way of helping you is not really helping your health long term. It can help you right here and then, but usually long term, it gives you more problem and complication with other things because it starts a spiral of bad health, basically. Uh, Lovely. Is there anything else that you want to add to your story right now?
Um, I think like lots of times it's easy to focus on our kids and try and give them the best, and we don't do that for ourselves. So I always encourage adults and especially moms, like you really have to give your body the attention that you'd be willing to give your child's so that you can both thrive together.
Yes, let's all thrive together, help our children thrive, help ourselves thrive, even your hobbies if you like them. It's optional. No, but thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your story too. Because I think there is a lot of women out there that are struggling with UVIs and they may not even have been thinking about that maybe their daily Starbucks is a part contributing to you struggling with it. I have met parents that have kids with UVIs that doesn't think at all that their sugar consumption have anything to do with their UVIs. I'm like, you guys, if you do your research, it will show. But yes, if you are struggling, please cut out all sugars, starches, and then reach out. We can help you. But thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to do one thing for me. Think of one person you want to share this podcast with and copy the link and send it right away. Thanks for playing an important role in the Blue Zone community. And if you want to keep on building a better you, one essential building block at a time, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next episode.